Macallan fans may not like it, but this bottle of Tamdhu 12 regularly gets called the Macallan killer. Today we're going to find out if that's true. I'm Jeff, this is G Whiskey, stick around. Alright, Tamdhu 12 today. This is a whiskey that's gotten a lot of traction since it got released way back in 2017, 18, around there, back when it replaced the old 10-year-old. And since then, it's become something of a go-to for people who want a nice, pleasant, sherried Speyside. Now, of course, no review of Tamdhu would be complete without the comparison to Macallan, and sure, we will get there. Basically, this is a brand that's regarded as the Macallan killer because a lot of people see it as equal in quality, but with better specs and a cheaper price tag. This stuff is matured in first fill and refill, both European and American Oloroso sherry casks. This is their entry-level offering. It's the most affordable Tamdhu from their core range. Obviously, it's 12 years old, and that's about all the technical stuff we know. Personally, I've been enjoying this stuff for years. I've always really enjoyed it, and I was surprised to learn that I've actually only looked at this bottle once before, and that was well over 4 years ago, so that was actually one of my earliest reviews on the channel. At the time, I scored this 89. I was an excitable little munchkin back then. Since then, I have brought my scoring system down, and while I still probably think this is a very good whiskey, 89 seems high. Anyway, the point is I go way back with this whiskey. I remember trying it right after its initial release, and it's a bottle that I've come back to many times over the years, so it's a whiskey I'm very familiar with. And my hopes are high for today because so far I have not found Tamdhu 12 to be very batchy or inconsistent. I've had many bottles, my friends have, I've had it at multiple tastings, and it's always been pretty solid, pretty reliable. Because some whiskeys can be roller coasters, which gets really frustrating when you're reviewing, because it's happened before. I'll have a bottle, I'll taste it, I'll think, okay, this is great, and I'll tell everyone it's the bee's knees. And then at a later point, I'll get a different bottle, a different batch, and it ends up being the bee's butthole. So let's hope that's not going to be the case here. So far, my experience with this bottle leads me to believe that it should be fine, it should be good, but let's find out for sure. Let's jump into our review. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Alright, so the specs on this bottle are not perfect. This one comes in at 43%. Ideally, we would have 46. Also, this is going to be chill filtered. However, we do have 1 out of 3 because it's natural color. For the look, I think Tamdhu bottles are fine. It's not my favorite aesthetic, but I do think they look okay. It's definitely not something you're going to miss on the shelf. It's very recognizable. I like that it's easy to grip. I don't mind the Art Deco approach. We'll give it 3.5 out of 5. For information, it doesn't talk about chill filtration, and it wouldn't because it is a chill filtered whiskey. It does say natural color, which is nice, and it says it's exclusively matured in sherry casks. We don't get tasting notes or anything like that. It's not a wealth of information, but it's not bad either. On the nose of this whiskey, we get orange oil. There's dried oranges, dried fruits in general. We get some gentle spices in here, mostly cinnamon. There's some very faint star anise. There's some toasted oak, some tart apples, some creamy sherry, and of course, vanilla. On the palate and finish, we get very gentle cinnamon and sherry. There is some toasted oak in here. There's some spiced oranges. There's some cinnamon. Kind of reminiscent of mulled wine, actually. We also get some orange creamsicle in here, some orange oil, some oak spice. Finish is medium in length. Alright, so this stuff is still good. I don't think it's changed too much over the last few years, and it still gets a lot of things right. Obviously, the 43% ABV is not ideal. We would prefer to have it at 46%, but as I often say on the channel, I'm perfectly fine with whiskeys at 43%, as long as they nail the flavors. I do think whiskeys like this are best enjoyed earlier in the evening. Like if you're just getting started and you're going to have a few drams, that's when you should try this. If you have a bunch of really intense stuff, if you have anything cask strength, and you come back to this, obviously you're going to feel a little bit underwhelmed, but as a starter whiskey, great. And what's nice about this stuff is that it is not a sherry bomb. It's definitely sherry forward, but it's not a bomb. Because contrary to popular belief, I actually really like sherry in my whiskey. I just don't want it to be completely overwhelmed by the cask, and what's nice about this style is that even though it is very sherry forward, it's a full sherry maturation, it still leaves room for the softer, more delicate flavors to shine. The word I always use to describe this whiskey is elegant, and it really is, and I think that's where the Macallan comparison comes from because Macallan, for all its faults, is a very elegant whiskey. And so is this. There's a lot of gently spiced orangey notes in here that are reminiscent of Macallan, As I said earlier, I do like the cask influence here. They did use both American and European oak casks, but the spices from the European casks really sing in this. But you know what? Instead of just talking about the Macallan comparison, why don't we actually take a look? I've got a Macallan 12 here, so why don't we crack this, give it a side-by-side with the Tamdhu, and see how they size up. By the way, this is a new bottle from the newly revamped Macallan Core range. They just did that earlier this year in 2025. This is now called the Sherry Oak Collection, whereas before it was just called the Sherry Oak. Exactly the same whiskey, just different packaging. You guys can let me know down below if you want to see a review on this one. Anyway, based off my first impressions, the Macallan was a fresh crack. The two whiskeys are somewhat different. They are also somewhat similar. The Macallan does have a lighter texture. It's got 3% less ABV. That one's 40. Tamdhu's 43. It's not quite as tart. It doesn't lean quite as heavy into vanilla, but oppositely, it does offer us a richer, more lush sherried character. That said, there are things in both of the sherried characters of these whiskeys that tie them together. Both are very creamy sherry. They're both quite oaky. They both have that spiced orange element. I would say that the Tamdhu is probably the more delicate of the two, whereas Macallan, as I said, it's more lush and it's also slightly more sweet. So honestly, if you're looking for a winner here, there isn't going to be one. These two whiskeys are different enough that owning both doesn't feel redundant, but they are similar enough that, in my opinion, they do scratch a similar itch. Both are very beautiful, very elegant whiskeys. Quality-wise, these two I would say are on par, and here in my market, the Macallan is almost double the price of the Tamdhu. So if you're stuck between the two, you're not sure which one you want to get, the price tag should make that decision for you. Anyway, that is our comparison done. It is an obligatory comparison. I'm contractually obliged. If I don't do it, the video could get demonetized, I could get kicked off of YouTube, and most importantly, they wouldn't let me back into the Whiskey Illuminati meetings. At the end of the day, Tamdhu don't need no Macallan. It is a strong, independent woman. It can stand tall on its own, and what it is a restrained, classy, and very elegant Speyside whiskey. This gives us beautiful balance, great flavors. I honestly don't have a bad word to say about this one. I think this is Speyside whiskey at its finest, and it is affordable. Oh, hello, I'm editing Jeff. I realized after shooting that I did not include a score in this video, which is kind of essential, so the score for this one is going to be 86. Absolutely love it. Now, before we touch too much on the affordability of this stuff, before we talk about value, I do want to say a quick thank you to all my channel members and all my patrons, guys. Thank you very much for the support. It's genuinely appreciated, and if you want to help out, I will link Patreon and PayPal down below. This whole channel is me scripting, shooting, editing. It's a one-man show. Any contribution helps. Now let's see if this is worth the money. So the value on this bottle, I think, is excellent. Here in my market, I pay about $40 US, roughly 30 pounds, and I think it's worth every penny of that. Now, of course, my market is notoriously cheap. You'll likely have to pay a little bit more than that, but wherever you are, it should be within the realm of affordable entry-level pricing. And as long as that is the case, you're getting a good deal. You're getting a very good whiskey, and you're getting a whiskey that, in my opinion, tastes more expensive than it costs, which is not something you see too often in the whiskey world. So this one is highly recommended. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will bring us to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and this is where I send it back to you. What are your thoughts on Tamdhu 12? How would you compare it to Macallan? What are your thoughts on its value? Let me know all your Let me know all your opinions on it down below in the comments. Also down below in the comments, you can let me know what you want to see me review down the line, and I will keep that in mind for my upcoming videos. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.